In this section, we'll look at the foot. As usual, we'll start with the bones. After that, we'll look at the joints and ligaments, the muscles, the blood vessels and nerves, and lastly, the skin. We saw most of the bones of the foot in the last section. Here, we'll briefly review the tarsal bones, then we'll look at the metatarsals and the bones of the toes.
Here's the calcaneus, the talus, the navicular, the cuneiforms, first, second, and third, and the cuboid. Let's see the same bones again from beneath: the calcaneus, the cuboid, the cuneiforms, the navicular, and the talus again. Now we'll look at the metatarsals. Like the toes, the metatarsals are numbered 1 through 5. The first metatarsal is more massive than the others. The second metatarsal is the longest. On the base of the fifth metatarsal, there's a prominent tubercle. The metatarsals are slightly curved from end to end. The heads of the metatarsals lie in one flat plane, but their bases form an arch from side to side, as do the tarsal bones that they articulate with. These are the 3 cuneiform bones and the cuboid. These are the tarso-metatarsal joints. There's very little movement at any of them. The bones of the foot are arched in 2 planes, from side to side, as we've just seen, and also from end to end.
We'll be looking at the structures that support the arches of the foot in a minute. To finish with the dry bones, let's look at the toes.
The big toe has only 2 phalanges, a proximal and a distal. The other 4 toes have 3 phalanges, proximal, middle, and distal. These are the metatarsophalangeal joints, or MP joints for short. The joints between the phalanges are the interphalangeal joints.
The bones of the toes are quite similar to the corresponding bones of the fingers, which are shown in Volume 1 of this atlas. Last of all, we'll look at the skin of the foot.
On the dorsum of the foot, the skin is thin and mobile. On the plantar aspect, the skin is markedly thickened, especially in the weight-bearing areas. There's a generous padding of fat on the sole of the foot, especially on the heel. The skin on the sole of the foot is tethered to the deeper tissues by numerous firm strands of fibrous tissue. These strands arise from the underlying bone and the plantar aponeurosis and pass through the fat into the subdermis, keeping the weight-bearing skin firmly in place.
Now that we've seen the dry bones of the foot, let's see what they're like in the living body. We're already familiar with the ligaments around the ankle. What we'll look at now are the ligamentous structures that hold this apparently delicate arch of bones together and enable it to support the whole weight of the body.
Here's the foot with all the soft tissues removed and all the joints and ligaments intact. On the dorsum of the foot, there's an almost continuous layer of ligaments connecting the tarsal bones both to each other and to the metatarsals, and connecting the heads of the metatarsals together. The ligaments on the dorsum of the foot are strong ligaments, but the truly impressive ligaments, the ones which support the longitudinal arch, are on the underside of the foot. First, here's the short plantar ligament. It goes from here on the calcaneus to here on the cuboid bone. Just in front of the short plantar ligament is the groove for the peroneus longus tendon. Lying directly beneath the short plantar ligament is the long plantar ligament. The long plantar ligament also starts here on the calcaneus and goes all the way to the bases of the third, fourth, and fifth metatarsals. The long plantar ligament bridges over, or rather under, the peroneus longus tendon. Here's the tendon going to its insertion on the base of the first metatarsal. There's another, even more impressive structure that supports the arch of the foot, the plantar aponeurosis. The plantar aponeurosis is a massive sheet of tendon-like tissue that runs the whole length of the foot. It starts here on the calcaneus. It fans out as it runs forward. As it approaches the MP joints, the plantar aponeurosis splits into 5 divisions. Most of the fibers of each division pass into 2 slips, which pass forward and upward toward the MP joint. We'll see where they go in a minute.
To understand where the slips of the plantar aponeurosis insert, we first need to look at the MP joints and at some structures nearby: the flexor tendon sheaths, the plantar ligaments of the MP joints, and the ligament that connects the metatarsal heads, the deep transverse metatarsal ligament.
Here's the deep transverse metatarsal ligament. It goes all the way from the first MP joint to the fifth. The flexor tendon sheaths, which we'll see in a minute, are attached along these lines.
To take a look at a typical MP joint and the structures around it, we'll look at a toe and its metatarsal in isolation.
Here's the MP joint with its capsule intact. Here it is with the loose parts of the capsule removed. There's a broad collateral ligament on each side. The MP joint can't flex much beyond a straight position, but it can extend all the way to here. Here's an MP joint divided longitudinally. The joint capsule is thin on the dorsal aspect and massively thickened on the plantar aspect. This thick part of the capsule is the plantar ligament of the MP joint. It's fixed to the proximal phalanx here, so when the joint is extended, the plantar ligament is pulled forward. Here's the plantar ligament in the intact joint. The tendon sheath is attached to the plantar ligament here and here. Here's a short piece of the tendon sheath intact. It runs the whole length of the toe, as we'll see later. Also attached to the plantar ligament of the MP joint is the deep transverse metatarsal ligament. Here's its attachment on one side. Here it is on the other side. Here's the MP joint of the big toe, the first MP joint. It's much larger than the other MP joints, and it has 2 additional structures, a pair of sesamoid bones, which are enclosed within the plantar ligament. One of them's here, the other one's here.
Now that we've looked at the MP joints and the structures around them, let's go back to the plantar aponeurosis and see how it's inserted.
As we've seen, each division of the aponeurosis gives rise to 2 slips. These lie on each side of the flexor tendons. The 2 slips are inserted here and here on each side of the plantar ligament of the MP joint.
Since the plantar aponeurosis is inserted into a set of movable structures, the plantar ligaments of the MP joints, its tightness varies depending on the position of these joints.
When the MP joints are straight, the plantar aponeurosis is slack. But when they're extended, it becomes much tighter. The plantar aponeurosis acts as a continuation of the Achilles tendon. When it's tight, as it is when the MP joints are extended, It enables the pull of the calcaneal tendon to be transmitted directly to the metatarsal heads.
That's why the arch of the foot remains an arch, even at the moments when we place the heaviest loads on it. The plantar aponeurosis is the central part and much the strongest part of a layer of fascia, the plantar fascia, which covers the entire sole of the foot. We'll see the whole of the plantar fascia when we've looked at the muscles of the foot, which we're going to do shortly.